All right, Donald, what do you think about this? We've got, let's go back to the kid just a minute here, the accuser. This should be the star witness, and there may be plenty of bolstering or other supportive testimony to come, but this should have been the high point of the state's case. What did you think?
Well, Catherine, I disagree that this should be the high point of the state's case. Let's call it for what it is. You had an experienced, probably one of the best defense attorneys in the country cross-examining a child for about 4 or 5 days. The result was what we would expect. You got a child that's, having problems up there. He seems to be not telling the truth in certain facts and things like that. I mean, that's what's going to happen when you have that type of a matching. The case is not about, the point of him testifying. It's going to be what's following, the corroborating evidence that we're going to see afterwards. That's where this case will either be made or lost. When we start looking at the computer records, when we start looking at possibly prior bad acts, things of that nature. So, Catherine, that's the one way that I disagree with a lot of the commentators right now. This is how it's supposed to be. You had Mr. Shapiro, or any other high-powered attorney cross-examining any child. That child's going to look like he or she's not telling the truth regardless of that kid's innocence. That's just how it plays out. And so, we shouldn't be surprised right now that there's doubt. If we were to stop the trial right now, the jury would have a hard time. Yeah. But the thing is about a trial is it keeps turning, it keeps twisting. Who would know that Michael Jackson would come into court with pajamas on the other day, showing up an hour late? So, we don't know what's going to happen, and it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bob, what about this? Because when I say high point, the credibility of this kid is going to be either supported by what comes after or left hanging, left in question. But when you look at where Mesereau scored the points, it was a lot of the before the cops and psychiatrists got into this, that of course children do deny this sort of conduct again and again and again. And I know plenty of them that never fessed up until they were, in their 20s and 30s, for heaven's sakes. We just watched the Priest case, where the Shanley case, where this guy was, what was he, in his 30s? Yeah, late 30s or something, and finally comes forward. And of course his story had plenty of holes because of the time. Is this really going to be the scoring the points that Mesereau did? Is this going to be the death of this child's credibility, or is this something that the state can probably work their way out of?
I think at this point in time, Catherine, most people would conclude that there has been some credibility problems, not only with this young boy and the impeachment of him, but with others in his family, and that was to be expected. You would not expect the young boy to be totally consistent with everybody in an event like this. And what has always mystified me is, if somebody was to make up a story of molestation with the eye towards getting a lot of money, I think they would probably seek to portray the person as doing something more than masturbation. So that's one point that concerns me. The second point, I think, that's going to really be the turning point in this trial is whether or not there is any corroboration for this boy's credibility. Well, certainly we don't have any independent corroboration of the molestation, nor will there ever be, or could there ever be.
Except for his little brother that sends out the 2 instances from the stairway.
Well, again, because of the family relationship, I think that is not independent corroboration.
Okay.
On the other hand, when it comes to the allegations of alcohol, my understanding is that there will be corroboration. If, in fact, there is corroboration about Michael Jackson pouring alcohol or having someone pour alcohol into soda cans to disguise it and giving it to children, and that's corroborated, then this boy's credibility rises significantly, and I think the jury will so find him to be believable.
You're absolutely right, and I agree with you. If you're going to make up a story, let's make up a really good, solid story, and not ones with holes in it.